Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how are my snipers doing today? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. Listen, today we are going to be talking about the markets, the altcoins, and pretty much a topic of should I sell my altcoins? To answer this question right away, ladies and gentlemen, it does not make sense to sell near bottoms. Regardless of if we think coins are going to go down lower, right? Most people, let's say, even we'll just use render as an example, right? It doesn't matter which coin, right? Most people had opportunities to be cashing out, let's just say somewhere over here, right? Or even up higher, right? From, let's just say, from 550 all the way to 1330, right? And if you're one of those people that bought in, let's just say below $5, $6, $7, below $4, right? You've had your chance to cash out for decent profits or break even, or whatever the scenario and case was, right? Now, cashing out for a loss, right, to potentially buy lower doesn't really make sense, especially, that some people bought up really, really high, right? Let's say I bought at $10 just for simplicity's sake, and let's say I wanted to, cash out now. I would be down a good amount. I'll be down 72.5%. So roughly what I would have, let's just say I'd have upwards of $3,000 left. Even if this splits right now into, all right, render goes from, let's say, 275 to whatever it's divided by 2, which is like what, 137 or something. Even if that were the case and you got back in, it is still super, super risky to do that. Especially that if things start turning around, not only do you sell for a big loss, right? You sold over here, you never really had the chance and the price you're looking for to re-enter to be making back those gains. Now, I get why people do this when you are in profit or break even and you realize, hey, I actually do want to cash out from these markets because I do believe they're going lower, right? Taking that calculated risk makes sense when it's higher up, right? Selling near the bottoms doesn't make sense. And this is something I've discussed with traders and other people that talk to me about trading. Some people, for example, they like trading breakouts, and that includes breakouts from a bottom or a top. And for me, it's never really worth it, and it's always really, really risky, right? Like, for example, would I rather sell over here, or would I rather wait for a breakout potentially from these bottoms, right? Everyone has a different trading style, and I'm not saying things don't work, but it just makes more sense to literally sell high and buy low, right? Just fundamentally speaking. I know people use that as a meme, but it's just the reality, right? And this applies for altcoins, right? So for me, someone like me, I'm not selling any positions. I'm just going to dollar cost average into lower prices. I already have my zones marked up. I even told you guys some of them where I will be looking to be putting in more aggressive positions. My personal style is that the higher I buy, the lower amount I put in. So let's go back to render, for example. If I bought render at an average of, let's just say 250 before everything started to pump, then I put a certain amount of money, right? Let's just say I put in $1,000. Let's just say $1,000 at around $1, okay? Then if it goes up to, let's just say 450, I might put 500 bucks in. Then it goes back down to, 380, I might put, let's just say something like $700 in, right? Playing more aggressive than my higher position, okay? But still not being more aggressive than my initial entry. And then the higher we get, the lower the amount, maybe like 300 over here. And then maybe, if we have another dip, maybe again 300, and then it starts rising, maybe like 120. And then that's how I dollar cost average, right? That is how I do it. I just really like this strategy. I personally think it's the best because even though, let's say, you might sometimes get wrecked or some of your positions might start going into a negative, right? If my $120 starts going to a negative and I'm down 10% from this position, I'm down 12 bucks. But my average prices are still super high. That if I wanted to cash out, it's like, sure, I lost $12 on this position, but all these positions down here still made me a lot of money, okay? So that is just my personal plan, right? That is my personal plan. And that is why I personally, even though I'm not a financial advisor, that is just the way I personally like seeing the markets. And that is what I recommend for people to be doing, right? It doesn't make sense for you to put in like 500 at $2, then 1,000 at $4, and then 5,000 at $10, right? It doesn't make sense. Psychology wise, I mean, like just everything wise, doesn't make sense to put more money in at the top. And I know that's what people do, and that's why people get wrecked, because people get fear of missing out, and then they start chasing the bag, and then they start doing some fancy stuff where they're like, I'm actually going to cut my losses, because if I cut my losses, I have $3,000 and I can get it for half the price. Then it's technically, I'm going to be starting to earn double. I'll start earning $3,000 every dollar 35 or 37 we were talking about earlier, right? If we got in at 275, or if we got out at 275 and got back in at a dollar 37 ish, right? Then it's like, yeah, technically, this $3,000 would make you would double every dollar 37 render does go up. But at the same time, you are literally selling near the bottoms, and all it takes is one piece of good news. All it takes is for you not to realize that, hey, we might be entering a 3-month order block where there's a high probability of a very, very big rejection. There are those things, right? There are those things. And yeah, you guys got to realize that, because not a lot of people pay attention to technical analysis. Not a lot of people pay attention to the bigger picture. And, it's very, very, very important to do so, because if you get lost on the micro move, you might actually, if you pay attention too much on micro move, you might lose yourself in the bigger picture. Okay. So it's like, yes, okay, if I did this, let's say I was in profit, or even if I was in a slight loss, and I sold everything here and I rebought somewhere down here at $2 or $2.50 or even $3, then sure, that makes sense. But selling near bottoms, where I believe we're going to bottom out soon, doesn't make sense, right? Like Caspa is going into a big zone. I really don't believe we will be, going in this zone and then going lower. At this point, would be going to a bear season. So for me, the 4 to 5 cents range is a prime opportunity for Caspa. Something like AKT 70 cents, right? Somewhere there. Right? If we go lower and lower, that means we're just in a bear season, and altcoins have just died and everything has failed, and we were wrong in the first place. Right? There's these certain zones that are marked up for a reason. Overall, I think the markets are just trying to shake us out, and I do think things will reverse very, very nicely over the next couple months. The timings of this market are going to be different, right? Most people expected May, April for things to pump, as I did, last year or even over a year ago. But like I said, now there's more money in the markets. Bitcoin is going to take longer to pump and evolve. By the time Bitcoin dominance breaks, it's also going to take some time. And yeah, just because things are down now doesn't mean altcoin season is canceled necessarily too. I know some people are worried about that. Bitcoin dominance is still on the rise. It is still chilling around 61.5%, and I expect it to top out somewhere at 69%. Right? We went from 54.5, let's just say, back upwards of 65 in 2 months, right? In 2 months. Now, sure, we're back down, but in 2 to 4 months, a lot of things can change. We could be up here, and next thing you know, 1 to 2 months later, we could be down here because altcoin season happened, right? So everything can still change. A lot can change within 4 to 8 months. I still think that summertime to early fall is going to be where we peak, and then probably sometime in early 2026 before we get the 2026 crash. So that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Personally, I do not recommend selling your altcoins as you are near bottoms. For me, it's just better to hold it out. And if you have more money, just try to get a slight dollar cost average if you are at high positions. Of course, if that's what you want to do, right? Don't over risk, don't over leverage. But if you can potentially risk a little bit more because you still believe altcoins will pump and you believe altcoins will recover, then you can mitigate, some of the damage. You can mitigate some of your high positions with getting a nice, better average to a point where even if the altcoin season was super, super mid, maybe at this point, you can get out at a very slight loss, break even or even slight profits because you brought down your average. But that's something you have to do on your own, and only you know if that's something you can afford to do or not. But that is it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys did enjoy it, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Goodbye.